I don't mean to rush
Mm-hmm.
because it's New Year's Eve,
It is.
and not because we have big plans, but rather traditionally on New Year's Eve we have our niece and now niece and nephew come over for a New Year's Eve kiddie friendly dance party.
Oh.
So we're in the final throes of getting this ready. However, this year we had to skip it because we're not well.
Right.
Right. So we're doing something a little more low key this time. We're gonna grab some Persian food, go to Grandma's house, and then after go to an arcade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. I
What are you
like
up
it. I've never been a New Year's person. Even I'm still relatively young, I guess. But even in my young days, I was never like excited about it or never. I mean, I did a couple of things, but this year, like we do the same thing. We just kind of, it's our little holiday or whatever. We just have an evening at home, charcuterie, movies, that kind of stuff. Some sparkling beverages.
Yeah.
But no, never been into it in terms of like extravaganza or going out or anything like that. Never appealed to me.
I've never had a good time. I shouldn't say never. I mean, when I was a teenager,
Sure.
you'd go out and do something to be fun. But there was an age, somewhere around 25, when I think my whole prefrontal cortex finally just took its own shape. And I'm like, I don't like this anymore, and stopped. Especially that kind of submitting to that peer pressure
Mm-hmm.
of it's New Year's and you gotta do something. It's like, can I just go to bed?
Just go to bed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there have been years I've just gone to bed at like 11 or whatever.
Right.
That's funny you say about 25 because I was in my early 20s too when I had that New Year's moment, I think, where a bunch of us got on the GO train, went downtown Toronto, and went to the square. First time I'd ever done it, never done it before. And it sucked.
Right.
It was terrible. Like it's just a bazillion people in the cold waiting, and there's a band somewhere way at the front that you can't hear because unless you get there at like 8 a.m. or whatever, can't hear, can't see it, can't hear. And it's just like, this is silly. And then at like 12:02, I said to my buddy, like, just you wanna go home?
Mm-hmm.
Got back on the GO train. The only thing good about New Year's in that sense is that the GO train and everything is free, so no cost to ride.
Okay.
But we just
And
went
with
home.
did you guys have a couple like Mickeys in the pockets or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello, travelers. Yeah.
We were just in New York for work, and I did the thing where I'm going to go at Christmas to Rockefeller Center
Oh.
and see the tree, and go to FAO Schwartz and walk through the toy store and see the ice skaters, etc. Because the movies, I got to do it and see. Right?
Home Alone and everything. Yeah.
It was horrible, man. It was horrible. It was not fun. The tree was pretty. The toy store, I get it. And it's pretty awesome. And maybe when it's not like Christmas time, it's likely fun. What I actually wanted to do was probably go to a store that doesn't exist anymore, which was Gimbel's, which is, I guess, a department store. That's the one you always saw in the movies, but no longer is. So, okay. But the FAO Schwartz, they had the big piano and stupid stuff and everything. But as you're talking about like New Year's downtown, I was just thinking how awful it must be at our age to go to like Times Square and sit there during that mayhem.
For my entire life, I heard about the ball dropping,
Right.
the Times Square ball, but I didn't know what it meant. Like Dick Clark, New Year's Eve, rockin' New Year's Eve, whatever. And you're right, in the movies, it's just this phrase that's said around New Year's. I never knew what it meant. And I think during COVID, I was doing like a shift at the hospital and I was just flipping through the channels and there's Ryan Seacrest. I was like, all right, well, I'll watch it, whatever. And then I watched the ball. Have you ever seen this? Have you seen the ball, literally the ball drop?
Not in person, but I've watched
On
it on
TV? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's 4.5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's this thing that it's like a roller coaster or whatever. Just like, and then it's like, that's what they've been referring to my entire life about the ball dropping. Like it's not, New Year's Eve is the epitome of building up to nothing, I think.
Oh, I would agree with that. I mean, look, the ball people have a very good marketing department.
Yeah.
as a youngster, we'd go to different New Year's parties, and that was always the thing that was on the tube somewhere, in New York, the ball drop. I don't fully understand it. I'm sure there's a history to it that's likely entirely made up, but it's a thing. And then I thought, as I'm walking through all of these Christmas crowds in this tourist trap area, that, gosh, the New Year's thing, whenever you see it on TV, it's really not a lot of people doing anything other than a lot of standing around, right? And just waiting for a time to occur.
And the TV producers, every time they come in, like, okay, in 5 seconds, everyone's going to look happy and smile and dance around.
Right.
And it's hours and hours. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know.
So not for us.
Not for me.
I'm okay with all of that. I was just in the car picking up some steaks because we're going to have pancakes and steaks tomorrow. And I thought to myself, this period that we're in right now is an unusual time, that time between Christmas
I was just going to say
and
that.
New Year's. So I did some research. The Europeans, they know exactly what we're talking about. They have words for it. The Germans have words for it. The Danes have words for it. The Swedish. We have yet to actually define this period. The Germans, I think it loosely translated to between the years.
Oh.
Which I thought was actually really nice.
I love German words. They're great.
I'm sitting here in this between the year angst.
So we're the odd ones.
Do I work? Oh, I tried a little bit, but is it too much? Or are there people working, or should I not work? Should I take time off?
What day is it?
Right. Should I be more reflective of my year? Should I be planning for I've got that constant, I don't know how to behave during this gray area that's not, when I was a kid, it was well defined, right? It's the holiday break. That's it. There's no school. Have fun until New Year's, and then you go back to school. Mm-hmm. And even here, it turns out it's another week after that because of the way the dates fall. They've got another week where they don't do anything. So that's easy as a kid. But as an adult, are you experiencing any of this between the years angst?
I actually am going to pat myself on the back this year because normally, yes, I have that every year, as I'm sure lots of people in North America do. But this year, I gave myself the between the years break. Now, part of what I do allows me to do that. So when I teach at the universities and the colleges here, they just shut down. So that makes it easy. It's not like I have to go in. There are no classes, nothing's happening. And then the self-employed version of myself just said, for the next 2 weeks, I'm not working. I'm off. Sent the email to the clients and just said, between these dates, I'm not around. If you need help now, let's do it. If you can wait until the second week of January, that's cool too. So I basically just removed everything this year and just said from, whatever, the Saturday before Christmas until middle of next week, I'm that's my between the years that I'm chilling.
I would love to have done that. Because I'm now I'm like a CFO and a CEO, and I'm just a bunch of O's. And so now I'm busy again at a time where I'm like, okay, well, the year end is the year end. Let the bookkeeping and the accounting take care of itself.
Well, that's for sure. I think it's interesting too, culturally speaking, because a lot of you, I'm sure for you as well, like our clients who are not North American, who are South American, European, whatever,
right.
Like they responded and was like, well, what do you mean? Like we had no expectation that there would be anything. Like it is between the years weeks. It's a very North American thing where like Maya reminded me, I think, like Boxing Day is not a holiday in the US. Like the 26th of December is a work day.
Right.
And that just racked my brain of like, you have this, if you celebrate Christmas, you have this 25th day it's built up like New Year's, and you have this meal and this everything. And then you wake up in the morning, you go to work. I mean, that just, and again, here we only have one other day, but it's just, maybe that's a reflective point, Maybe the between the years is a thing that should be implemented here in some way.
Or not. You could just do away with the whole thing, right? And stop Hey, it's New Year's. We have to do something. You know? I mean, it could just be the first of the month, honestly. I don't know if it requires a celebration.
No.
Or just find maybe like this sort of secular break where we just call it between the years.
That's what I mean. Just some kind of downtime where it's just not work centered. It doesn't have to celebrate anything, but just I do think once or twice a year there should just be a between the whatever solstices where there's a 5-day break because people need breaks.
I'm not one of the guys who subscribes to this notion where Christmas as a federal holiday is racist or exclusionary. I don't know, but I get it because it is in a way. It's sort of like, hey, if you're not Christian, we're going to give you the day off anyway, and whatever else you guys celebrate, good luck. I guess legally you can take the day off, but nobody's going to understand why. I think that sucks. Right. So, because I know more and more and more people who don't celebrate Christmas and don't give, two craps about New Year's, and whose fiscal year end for some reason has to be December 31st. So they're kind of like, I would rather just like do some light work, maybe have a long weekend and start back up again, and take a vacation like a normal person, like at a time that I choose, as opposed to collectively in an inconvenient half in, half out way. All of society sort of takes time off. That's the thing that bothers me. If we all collectively agreed we're not gonna do this for reasons, then that'd be great. Okay, now I can submit to it, kind of like a lockdown. This is what it's gonna be, right? But this kind of one foot in the canoe, one foot in the dock is the angst that I'm also feeling.
The problem is when the dates are not, when they're fixed, right? It's the 25th of December, it's the 1st of January. Because you said something that's interesting, where if it was just a long weekend, right? And there are holidays where the holiday is whatever it is, but it's just Monday is not a work day, or Friday, or like whatever. And if it was just like when Christmas is a Wednesday, right. You go to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's off, and you're back on, like, that's silly. Even if you celebrate, to me, that's silly because there's no break, there's nothing happening. But if it was just a long weekend, well, that's interesting.
If we were to take all of the holidays and just say, okay, let's throw them in a jar and shake them up, dump them out on the table. And you can't see what the holiday is or anything like that. And let's just lay them out over the year, right? And just make like a collective, here's the schedule that we're all going to follow, which is, maybe every 6 weeks, it's 1 week off. Mm-hmm. We're all off. We all know we have a name for it. It's like the 6+ week or something. We have a name, like they have the Aguinaldo. It's the 13th month. It would be neat if we had that thing where we all collectively agree we're going to just spend time with our families. We're not going to go to work, stock up on groceries. There'll be some essential things open, but otherwise, get ready because the 7th week is coming or something. I would dig that.
That sounds interesting. I like that.
No one's going to go along with any of this.
Hey, I like that. You can't, I don't know if the camera, can you see my shirt?
I can a bit.
See what it says there?
Swifty?
Yeah.
Why does it say Swifty?
It says Swifty. So, I don't know if you're an NFL guy. No.
Well, I'm not a Swifty either, but
yes,
I'm part of society.
Worlds have been colliding, I guess, as they say. Remember the Seinfeld episode, Relationship George and Independent George?
Right.
If Relationship George comes in that door, he will kill Independent George.
That's right.
So my partner Maya is a huge Taylor Swift fan, and she is in a relationship with a very, very famous, great player in the NFL. And
your partner or Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift. No, not me. Not my partner.
Uh-huh. Right.
Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, is his name, who plays for the Chiefs.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know, for some reason, worlds are colliding, I suppose, because all of these Taylor Swift fans now support Taylor. But if Taylor's supporting something, then this is how it goes. So my brother,
Right.
for Christmas, got me this T-shirt that I'm wearing, which says Swifty, but in the Chiefs graphic.
Oh my God.
Because
I see.
they're getting it together, and there's a lot of worlds that actually are colliding. It's largely uninteresting, but there's a lot of NFL hardcore people who are upset that she's getting a lot of attention because she goes to the games and she's cheering and everything like this.
Uh-huh.
And then though the Swiftie fans are coming over too, and there's different meshes of things. It's very kind of an interesting dynamic that's happening over nothing, because she's just another famous person who likes watching a game, which is nothing. But now I have a Swiftie. Maya says I'm not allowed to be. There's a test I have to take before I can actually get.
Right. You can't go around saying that.
Exactly.
I knew.
No,
Yeah.
You can't say that. However, it is a way that now I can turn on a football game and she'll watch, because, well, she won't.
That's
She'll
awesome.
watch 10 minutes of it. Because
There's a chance
Taylor's
the camera
there,
will pan to her somewhere in a box.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, look, anybody in the United States can attest there's a lot of room for people to be galled and outraged at just about any stupid thing.
Mhm.
This is no exception. I think it's I'm sure the NFL is not complaining
No.
about having extra viewership and selling extra tickets and people lining up around a stadium wearing the merchandise that they're selling. So, good for them. I feel, I was about to say, I feel bad for the gentleman she's dating, but when I consider all of the things that he's got going for him at this moment, I don't.
No.
However, no pressure, right? Like you're going to end up the next album if you're not careful.
Right. Well, there was a meme going around when they announced it, or that they were dating, about how he's in a no-win position, or basically he breaks up with her and people hate him and there comes an album. She breaks up with him, same result, or they stay together forever and same result, because now she gets distracted or whatever from her career and she's developing a family or whatever. So it's kind of a joke, but he will become an album one way or the other.
Tay always comes out of these clean. That's the deal, right? Mm-hmm. She can do no wrong. Even when she does a little bit of wrong, it's like, well, she's human. Right? But then otherwise she's not. So,
well, she's getting the NFL's people that are outraged are now, because the Chiefs are not having a good season by their standards, and this Travis gentleman is not performing very well. So instead of saying actually he needs to work on his game, well, of course it's the Taylor factor, right? He's distracted, because no other athlete has ever dated somebody ever and then played poorly as a coincidence. It's never happened before.
If I were his PR agent, it wouldn't take a lot of brainstorming. I already know how to get out of all of this. 2 words: terminal cancer. This is the only way that you get out of this clean. You have to die of a lingering disease. Not too long, but long enough that everyone, like the nation's going to rally around you. We're going to lose you. And you're going to be a hero. Taylor comes out clean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
and
so.
your
It's the only
jersey's
way.
retired.
It's the only way. And then,
I mean, we all got to go.
You make a remarkable recovery,
Right.
9 or 10 months later, people have forgotten about it and everyone's happy for you.
It's either that or Super Bowl win.
Which they've done
got 2 choices.
already. So they're good.
Oh,
They're just having a year where they're not good, but
It's the old
good.
TC. That's all you got left, buddy. Call me.
You'll be interested in this, how they allegedly, the story of how, because you might wonder, how does one, even among famous people, just how do you meet Taylor Swift? How does that happen? This gentleman, Travis, with his brother, who also plays in the NFL, they have a podcast together.
Oh, God.
The Kelseys.
Uh-huh.
And allegedly the story is he was just talking on his podcast about how he really wanted to meet her and he liked her and he went to her concert and wanted to like, hey, I'm Travis Kelce. Go backstage and like talk to her, and security was like, no, I don't care who you are. That's no. So he was just describing this story on his podcast. And, I guess someone heard it, someone passed it on to somebody, someone passed it on to her. Yada, yada, yada. They're dating now. So the power of podcasting, bringing people together.
I'm going to tell you right now, if he ends up getting terminal cancer, they're listening. They're all listening to what we're saying here. Because, I mean, maybe there is an algorithm, because she, at her concerts, has the facial recognition for everyone that comes in, because she's got some serious stalkers. Like, she's got some real problems,
Right.
you know, and her life is not fun. I'm sure of that. There's a chance that they're scraping all of the podcasts for her name and looking for word associations. So we have to be super careful here, because who knows? One day we'll be trying to get into the T-Mobile Center or something and we'll be refused, right? Because we said something about Tay-Tay.
Terminal cancer. Can't get in.
Can't get in. TC. That's what it says right there. Sorry, sir. TC.
Sorry, Tay-Tay.
Have you been in any way like pensive, reflective, you know, just kind of recapitulating this year, thinking about what 2023 sort of, 2020?
No.
It's the end of 2023.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I get confused. Have you thought about this? Like what this year sort of has been or meant, or?
I think I always get a little pensive or nostalgic at the end of the year, in this in between the years.
Right.
Days. Do you know the German word? What is the German word? I'd like to use it.
It's good. It'll be the show title. We'll do that.
Is it odd or is it German?
It's German. That's funny, by the way. I really have been enjoying that, because we also saw a guy that was Persian, and we're trying to figure out, is it what and is it Persian? We don't know what the what is yet, though.
Mm-hmm.
The German, odd for sure.
Odd for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I think so. And I always thinking about that. But for me, honestly, I thought about this yesterday. I really liked my year this year, and I'm kind of proud of what I was able to do, and some things that I would change, of course, but thinking about what those are. And there were periods of times where I was, said yes to too many things and was probably too busy and this and that. But honestly, if I could just repeat this year, next year, 90% of it, I'd be really happy.
Whoa. That's nice. To get to a place where you're content.
Yeah. Some things that I would want to do better, just having more balance and maybe travel a little bit more and do some different things. But largely, I like the work that I'm doing. I like how it fits into my life. I like how Mai and I have developed together. I like where we're going. A first year and owning a home together and growing from that. And I think it's been a pretty good year, and a little bit more balance here and there. But that would be kind of nitpicking. I think it's been pretty good. And I guess the challenge is just to kind of keep going with it and making sure that you're able to keep that. And I guess the biggest reflection for me is to not let a lot of the work priorities interfere with some of the non-work priorities, because the priorities are the opposite, and just being able to cut it off. And I started doing something in the fall where I just turned my computer off at 6:00 p.m. because I found I would always walk away and have dinner and whatever, but if it was on, I'd come back and like peck away at something at 7:30 or 8:00 or whatever, and it's just like mentally it was just like not shutting off, So I started turning off the computer at 6:00, and then it like wasn't an option. So that was one thing that kind of helped with that. So that's kind of going to be the thing, where just making sure you have those stopping cues.
Mm-hmm. When I was reading a couple of those Cal Newport books, Deep Work, Digital Minimalism, and all that fun stuff, he really strongly suggested that at the end of your, he calls them time blocks for work, you have an actual tick box that's your shutdown time. And he even suggested that you say, shutting down, and like cue yourself that, hey, I'm done this part of my life and my work now, and I'm going to go focus on something else, or just focus on nothing else, right? So it used to be for me, when I lived at the beach, I always remember it's about 4 or 4:30 that the sun was starting to slowly make its descent into the ocean. And I'm like, that was my cue to just shut everything down, put on some board shorts, and go to the beach, right? And just swim around or go for a walk or boogie board or do something. And it was so easy to completely, like literally wash the work away. And we say these things as if we don't enjoy our work, right? That's the funny thing is that one of the reasons that we don't want to stop or shut down is because we're liking what we're doing.
Exactly.
Some people with jobs that hate them, it's very easy to like run out and go home. That's not a problem.
No, I think it is a self-employed thing where if you love what, and it just, because the time block is irrelevant. I think that's my challenge, is trying to fit that into, because you have, in a weird way, the freedom or the option is the curse, because you could do it anytime, and you could. So where do I put it, and then how do you make it consistent? And so that's what I was challenged with this year, of trying to like, okay, I've carved out this little life where I can move things around, which is what I want. But then when do I stop, or when do I do it? And the beach example is a good one, I think, because when the sun sets, that's a nice stopping cue of like, well, I'm going to go enjoy the sunset. It sounds like that's what you did.
That's what I did. I'm going to reinvigorate this kind of habit by, just going for like a walk or something. I'm going to, okay, it's a certain time of day now. I'm just going to go for a long walk, and I'm not going to bring my phone or anything. I'm just going to go walk around outside, something like that. Something that I'm physically doing that gets me in and out of a space. This year, I've been spending a lot more time and attention on being grateful, like really stopping and being grateful for the things that I not only have, but the people that are in my life, and getting off the sort of that treadmill towards nothing, that consumerism, that thing where it's like, if I just look around now, it's like I am blessed with all the things that 3-4 years ago I would have always, I wished I had. I wished I had this studio, or I wish I had this guitar, or I wish I had this depth of relationship with someone, and it's like, but then you have all those things. I mean, it seems to be our nature to be discontent with whatever it is we have. Mm-hmm. So I make a lot of concerted effort to stop and go, hey, you know what? I should enjoy this. Like just yesterday was an example of waking up and just feeling the sheets on your body and how nice they are in the morning, like how nice that feels. And then to look out the window and see the sky and the trees and the river there that we have beside our place, and wake up and brew coffee, and just smell the grinds and all. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's all of those things that is your life. Those are the little things that compile ultimately what it is that you're doing. And the more that I've been doing it, the less I've needed and felt like I need to go out and do anything. Like, we've been doing a lot less groceries in the last 4 to 6 months, not because, there's financial reasons for sure, but there's other where it's like, boy, we've made so many delicious meals with all of these things that we already have, right? So we've gotten to this place where it's like, let's eat all the fruits and vegetables basically down to zero, and then go buy a bunch of new fruits and vegetables, right? That kind of thing. And it's felt really more balanced, more like I'm not racing towards trying to achieve something in my life. It's like I am achieving something in my life.
Love it. That's great. That's great. And when I said like, if I could repeat this year, next year, I think a lot of that is what I mean as well. Like, you don't always have to want more or strive to more. I think ambition is good, but in terms of work and having a company or like whatever we're doing, making money, to what end? There's a lot of these financial people that I've been following, and some of them are like whatever, but a lot of the good ones are just like, well, to what end, right? Like, what is the life that you want to live? And then what kind of work and money fit in to allow for that? It's like a life first thing. And then what do you need in order to do that, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I'm doing now, traveling once or twice a year, kind of long weekends here, shutting down at, 6:00, sleeping in from time to time. That's just really nice. And I enjoy that, and can do things or not do things, and just having that kind of generic word balance, but just kind of like a life that I'm enjoying, and that I'm enjoying with my partner, and that we can do things together. That's what I want. And then the how of achieving that is through work, and then the work that I enjoy, etc. But it's not work, earn this much money, but then be busy, so busy that you can't actually spend it or use it or whatever, like it's do the things that I want to do first. And then how do I get there? And I think this year was the first year probably ever that I felt really good about that kind of balance. And now just kind of, instead of, I could easily say, well, next year I want to do like 20% more or whatever, but no, I would just, even 20% less, so that I could do more of the life stuff that I want to do.
Right. I like to think again, when I'd mentioned if 5 years ago I looked at what I had now, I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. Like that's the thing that I'm actually trying to get towards. And similarly with the work, there's always days where it's like a lot. And then there's days where it's not. And there's days where you love it and there's days where you don't. But in the broad stroke that I'm thinking, to have an opportunity to do the work that I do on my own terms and work with the type of people that I enjoy and love working with and the type of clients that we love serving, it's ridiculous. Like, again, if I look back 15 years ago, making $7 an hour, teaching English 10 hours a week, struggling to determine which packet of bologna I can afford to make my sandwiches. I'm like, wow, a lot of the things that I had actually dreamed of and envisioned for myself, I was able to, without the woo-woo word, to manifest into reality. It's remarkable. And then it just shows me how much change and opportunity exists in front of you to not worry about, because it enables that continuous growth and evolution of your life. Mm-hmm. And I find that it's not as much of a grind and a goal-oriented and ambitious task when you get to actually step out a little bit from the whole process and sort of just kind of enjoy watching it unfold as you're participating in it. And it's more like, this is actually interesting to watch happen instead of stressing because you're in it. It's like watching a movie, not being in the movie.
Right. It's the stepping back from the mural, right? When you're right up against the wall, you only see that one little spot in front of you. But when you take 20 steps backwards, you can see the full picture. And this between the years phase that we're in, at least for me, it always allows me to do that. If I allow myself to take a bit of time and step back, because you get, like, I really resonate with what you just said, where clients are great. I get to work with these really awesome people, learn from them, work with them, help them. That's what it's all about. Everything else is just comes out in the wash, but I'm grateful for that. And I'm really lucky to be able to do that in all the projects that I'm a part of. And the between the years is always a reflective moment, not just, but for me, but for that too. It's like, oh yeah, wow, I am really grateful. I mean, during COVID at the beginning, I was on EI, like job was gone, money wasn't, right. I was on, and just a couple of years later, I'm here. So it's always easy to say what's next, but when you look back and like you said, do that, it's like, holy cow, that's a great place to be. And I mean, ultimately, do I have goals? Of course, like I want to do these things, but I'm very happy with where I'm at, and I don't need more to be happy, which is, I'm happy to be able to say that as well.
I have two. I'm not a resolution person. I famously have sworn that I resolve to do nothing next year. However, you can't help but think that this is a chance to at least not necessarily say that calendar tick means I'm going to change something about myself. That's just not how change seems to really happen. But it is an opportunity to, again, be a little more introspective about what we would like to see of ourselves over the course of the next calendar year. And I've come to two. One of them is talk less, right? Listen more. Mm-hmm. I get off on rants, which is probably why I'm really good at sales, and probably why a lot of people don't like spending a great deal of time with me. That's one. And then the other is to not take myself so damn seriously.
Interesting.
In not just the general sense where it's like, don't take yourself so seriously. In the little minutia of the day to day, it's in those details, in those moments where those little things that frustrate you or upset you or anger you, or you are disappointed in whatever is going on in your life. I can catch myself pretty frequently being mostly upset with myself and thinking that my own self-importance in this situation is the problem, So that's my two is, talk less, listen more, which is kind of two, but it's one together, I think.
How did you come to the second one?
Not taking myself too seriously. Mm-hmm. Because, we here in our home, we've started realizing, my partner realized about 2-3 years ago, though I've been telling her for 8, that I'm funny. And she said, if you tell me that you're funny, it means that you're not, right? If you have to tell people that you are, then you're not. And I said, but okay, I want you to try this. Notice in social settings with other people, how often people are laughing at what I say. She's like, fuck, everyone's laughing all the time. You're actually kind of funny. And now when she sees that I'm actually usually just being dry or just being witty or just being whatever, because, British, she's like, oh, you're actually kind of fun to be around. You're really easygoing. And that reminded me of how important it is to not, again, take yourself so seriously, but we haven't been taking each other too seriously and starting to expand that out into our other social circles where we really do laugh at ourselves and our stupidities and our tendencies a lot, to a point where we're very comfortable making fun of each other. Mm-hmm. And it really it disarms so many situations. So that's, I think, what's been the impetus of it.
Nice. Laughter is important. Laughter is you are funny, by the way. I do think you're funny. You needed that validation. Water, you are
Thank
funny.
You. Thank you. Are you doing anything differently? Do you have any intent? It's like, I'm going to hit the gym tomorrow morning.
No, I'm not a gym guy. I do exercise at home here. Yeah. But 3 times a week, I'm happy with that. And then one kind of yoga day or something like that, which is good. So kind of 3-4 times a week. Harder in the winter, which I'm trying to, because it's dark and the mornings are harder to get. I do it in the morning because it gets my day going. And I do notice my days are much more productive on days that I exercise in the morning versus when I don't. That works for me. So trying to do 3 or 4 days in the morning, and really focusing on we're in the winter now. So just making sure I get up and do it. I always say, I think every year I say this, I love to read. I'm a reader, and I've gotten out of that habit a little bit. And that's part of the balance where I've just haven't really dedicated time, a dedicated space, a block of time each day to read. And during between the years, I've gotten back into reading. So I want to make sure that I find, nothing absorbent, but 20 minutes a day, a block to do some reading, 20 to 30 minutes. Because I love to read, and I love learning from reading and from books, and I want to make sure that I do that. The name today that I have is Sleepwalker, because I just started reading this book that Maya got me for Christmas called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Ooh. Have you read that?
Oh, no.
Okay. Just started it. But it's a really, really famous book, and he has a TED Talk, and it's like really, really good about the power of sleep, which is, I guess, not a secret. People know this, or I knew this kind of generally, but he really goes into the science and the minutia of it and why we sleep and really what happens if we don't. And it's really fascinating.
I've about 2 years ago, I was reading some stuff. I think Arianna Huffington was really into advocating for people getting sleep, which sounds ridiculous, but it's we live in a world where sometimes we forget that it's important.
Yeah.
And I actually really started building a lot of my habits with sleep at its center, because I just objectively have better days when I'm rested. My mood's better. I lose weight. I exercise at the gym and I feel good. I'll eat right, because there's a lot of things that just naturally fall out of having, for me, I found is 7 hours of pretty, good sleep is my magic zone.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm interested in this book, but
yeah,
it's
not. It is a science. Like it is exactly like I've gone through a couple of chapters, and he starts it with like the big statements of like, sleep can kill you basically if you don't do it. And there's like an example of like a person who didn't sleep for 12 months straight and they died. Like it does basically kill you. And 8 to 9 hours is kind of the funky zone that he says that you want to strive for, 8 or 9 hours. And then the chapter I just finished was about, I forget the name of this particle in your brain, but it's basically like it builds up during the day, and then while you're asleep at night, it comes back down. And ideally, it would go back down to 0. But if it doesn't go back down to 0, meaning you didn't sleep for between 7 and 9 hours, or you were in bed but kind of not good sleep, and the other things that like beer and coffee that affect good sleep and things like that, it doesn't go back down to 0, then it starts to build up faster.
Yep.
And it's basically like a debt. like a debt loan, where each paycheck, more of it is going back to pay the loan. And that's why you can feel tired for days and days and days in a row. Even if you think, oh, I slept for 8 hours last night, why do I feel tired? It's because the day before that, the day before that, the day before that. So you need
Right.
days and maybe weeks, depending, to actually get that thing back down to zero.
Right.
And it's just like really, really, really fascinating.
Sleep rhythm was something that I noted was if you get on a 3 or 4 day sleep streak, I mean, your mood's better. Yeah, there's garbage collection that seems to happen in the brain while you're sleeping as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I stopped quantifying a lot of my life about 2-3 months ago, right? I bought, I collect like cheap watches now, like Timex and Seikos and Nordgreens and stuff. They're like $50-$60 watches because I used to have an Apple Watch. I track my sleep, I track my exercise, I track my I track. And then I finally got to a place where it's like, I get it. I know roughly what my caloric intake needs to be, what my sleep needs to be, what time I get to bed. Like I've figured out and practically optimized all of that to a point that I don't need to continue to have those metrics, right? Including like I just bought a bunch of folders and papers and pens and stuff, and I'm doing more writing for work, like writing on paper and organizing thoughts. And I've got a coffee and a piece of paper and a pen. And I'm like, I have some of my best thoughts and some of my best ideas doing stuff that way. The point is sleep was always one of those central things that I had noted that I would lift less at the gym. I would eat more saturated processed calories during the day. My mood was worse. All of these, a whole variety of other metrics were altered entirely because of that sleep. And if I got that sleep part right, everything else just fell into place. Everything else was so easy. Your optimism level was super high. You know,
For sure.
it works. Sleep is good.
And the book goes into the science of why that is, not to bore everyone with the details, but yeah, it's just like, because when you're tired, you feel hungry, even though you're not hungry. So then you eat and all these kinds of things as well. And the weight loss thing or the exercise, he basically says, if you're dieting and you're trying to lose weight or gain muscle and exercise, going on a good diet or going to the gym is irrelevant. If you don't sleep for 8 hours a day, does not matter, has zero effect because while you're asleep, all these things are happening. And if you're not asleep for enough time, your body doesn't actually do the things required to lose weight or gain muscle or whatever it is you're doing. So sleep is, and you can lose weight just by sleeping 8 hours a day. Like you don't have to do anything else. Like he calls it the superpower, which scientifically, according to him, it really is.
Well, I mean, I've been cutting body fat for the last 2 years, and it's hugely important, especially for muscle growth. At my age, all of that muscle synthesis is taking place while you're sleeping, not while you're walking around or working. And you're as well, you're burning a lot of fat, provided you're careful not to eat within a certain window before bed, right? So if I have like an actual 1 or 2 beers before bed, I'm going to have a crap night's sleep because I'm processing all that sugar, alcohol, and carbs instead of my body doing all of the other functions that it wants to be doing while I'm sleeping. So all of that stuff kind of led to, again, there was this cascading effect. It's like I ended up cutting alcohol because it's like my workouts were not as good. I wasn't getting to sleep as well. So it's just, when I put sleep at the center of it, everything else had to naturally work around that. And it's now you're seeing like in, with the Silicon Valley and the tech bros and all those doucheballs, there's 2 things that are like the brag. The flex is, one, I'm jacked or I'm ripped because I have time right to exercise 5 days a week, and I'm super rested, right? Like I'm bragging about how much sleep I'm getting every night.
Go to bed at 8:30,
right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like sad that that's a flex, but at the same time, I can't argue with that's better than a lot of the other things that CEOs would be flexing on.
Right. I mean, yes. According to this guy, like you just 8 hours of sleep per day, whenever. Though the evolutionary rhythm of humans is during the daytime. So, some people are night owls or whatever, but basically 8 hours a day is the rule of thumb. And beer is, I think, an obvious one because we usually drink beer at night, and then therefore we connect the dots of not restful sleep because, I had 3 beers at 11 p.m. or whatever. But he says most people don't connect the dots with caffeine, where it takes, this shocked me, it takes 6 hours for our body, or rather our brain, to get rid of 50% of caffeine intake. So if you have a coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, at 11 p.m., only half of it has been removed from your brain. And then when we don't sleep well, nobody connects it, or very few people would connect it to the coffee you had in the afternoon. You'd think of something else. You're stressed, you're thinking about something, you're distracted, whatever. But actually, you have to have the last caffeine somewhere between 10 and 12 hours before you actually intend to sleep. And then there's caffeine in, not just in coffee or tea, but like chocolate and a whole bunch of other stuff where there's caffeine as well.
I can't have a can of Coke at 9 o'clock at night. I'm going to be up at 1 a.m. Like a baby who just got fed a bunch of ketchup or something. Like I'm going to be crawling the walls.
They gave a study. This is the last thing I'll say about it, because I think this is really cool. They have a study on giving drugs to spiders.
Okay.
And then usually I would say having them, but just, I guess, observing them build their webs. So they get normal, then they did LSD, then speed, marijuana, and caffeine. Which one do you think? Obviously normal is normal. So of the other ones, which one do you think had the worst web production?
Oh, I'm going to guess that THC.
No.
Really?
Really? That was pretty good, actually, in my expert web interpretation.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you going to say caffeine?
It's caffeine.
Seriously?
Yeah.
The thing that the go juice that we think is helping us.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Huh.
So, not to draw a conclusion between the spider brain and the human brain, because I have no idea, but he said the caffeine has a huge, comparing it to the other ones, which are regulated and mostly illegal and this and that or whatever, but caffeine not, where it has a similar effect temporarily on at least a spider brain. And to kind of think about the caffeine intake that an average human would take in, how it affects sleep and how it just affects function as well. Now, the other ones were also not good. LSD wasn't like good and this kind of thing, but caffeine was definitely the worst one, which was really interesting.
I mean, it aligns with what we're seeing, that many of the commonly accessible drugs, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, sugar, if you want to argue that, are some of the most detrimental to our long-term health and well-being. Some of the most dangerous things to consume, right, are the things that you can just buy in every color, shape, flavor you can imagine. So, and everything else is a controlled substance.
Yes.
Right. So it's curious. I've thought before, there's been days like, I'm a coffee guy. I really enjoy the ritual of the coffee in the morning.
Me too.
And there are mornings where it's like, that does give me the extra little kick that I do feel like I could use, but I don't know about you. One of the folks that has, like, if I don't have my coffee, I'm going to be grouchy. Like I've got a headache. Like I am definitely someone who doesn't misuse caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
but I know people that need it, or they're gonna peel your face off.
Needing it because you're dependent on it, I think, is different from what the book is saying. But he's basically saying if you feel like you need a coffee in the morning to function or to be awake, then you're not getting enough sleep. Basically, you're waking up before you've got your full cycle of sleep, and the circadian rhythm hasn't completed its cycle yet. So
Right.
you really shouldn't be drinking coffee in this kind of optimal world until noon or so, when most people's rhythm has peaked. But I'm with you. I'm a coffee in the morning person. Get it going.
Yeah. I mean, it would be fun. I could see you wake up, you have a giant glass of water, lemon water, ideally. Go for a big long walk, read a book, meditate. By the time you get around to, farting around with all of your stuff, I definitely get that it would be, hey, it's mid-afternoon, like maybe 1 o'clock. I'm going to pull out the old coffee sock, and I'm just going to make a nice cup of black coffee for the enjoyment of making it, the flavor, and maybe the little bit of, kick that I get from it. That's how I imagine is the actual best way to drink coffee, to squeeze it into
I
a
get that. But that's a world where people don't have jobs.
or ticos.
Or ticos. Yeah.
Yep, either one.
Which is nice. I used to have one of those, the Tico coffee maker. I used to have one. I think I got rid of it, but because it didn't make enough coffee. But now, looking back at it, maybe it did. Maybe I just overindulged. It makes the perfect amount of coffee, probably.
I bought one of those pour over. Mm-hmm. It's pretty, it's like it's got the shape and it's got the thing and it's got the everything. You got to weigh stuff and it's a whole thing. And I thought, boy, this is great because it was during the pandemic. Like I got time to sit here and weigh coffee. Why not? And how nice does that look on Instagram? But in the end, I only pull it out when the coffee maker breaks, right? Which is once every 3 years. So that's where I am on that. What are we going to do in the new year? Are we going to do anything ambitious with this podcast?
Oh,
or
I don't know.
Do we bring people on? Do we have a point? I think we talked about when the pandemic sort of wound down and we kept doing this. We have yet to maybe hone in on a reason.
Yeah. Well, I know my reason. I just like talking to you. That's
nice. Yeah. Me too. Yeah, that is. I mean, just two dudes need an excuse.
You're really funny.
I'm good with that. It's almost my time. I got to shift gears and get into a different mode.
Coffee time.
It's coffee time. I think this is where we say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and we'll think of something for 2024. Or we won't.
Do you say many happy returns? Do we even know what that means? Is that a thing? I'm going to start saying old-timey phrases. Many happy returns.
My mom says Hogmanay, which I think is a Scottish thing. So,
oh boy.
Happy Hogmanay.
Thank you. Well, happy end to the between the years to you two.
Is it after the years? Afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
After years. Happy after year.
Go now on the offense. Do it.